This is my big takeaway from the preseason. We didn't learn anything new.
Mm-hmm.
I feel exactly the same about Trey Lance. I have reasons to be optimistic. I have reasons to be pessimistic. And I feel the same. Like, there were good plays in the preseason and there were bad plays in the preseason. So I'm in the same spot. The callers last night were, and I think rightfully, like, you're watching a game and you're reacting to that game. Even though it's preseason, you're reacting to that game.
Like, we only got what we got.
Right. And what we saw last night was, frankly, not good enough. But it's not going to look like that. That's what.
Yeah.
It was the not turning it and going, hey, that wasn't great, but let's look ahead to the preseason. It was like, oh my God, this is a disaster. Should have kept Jimmy.
Okay, so 888-957-9570. We'll get right into your calls, not only on your Trey Lance reactions, but the question I have for everybody out there. After watching this last night, and I wrote it in all caps when I sent it to you last night, are you all honestly ready for this? Because my reaction to watching last night was not so much, I mean, there's the obvious, right? Mm-hmm. You don't need to have some great NFL mind to know that, well, boy, that offensive line, Now, McGlinchey and Williams aren't on it, and that is going to have a ripple effect, I believe. But, that's a concern. Okay, that's a totally fair concern. We also get the news that Jimmy Ward is going to miss not one game but 4. Mm-hmm. That a concern? Yeah, that's a concern. And is Trey Lance, actually, I'm not going to use the word concern. I'm intrigued. I mean, but if we all sort of expected that this is going to look like a first-year starter at times, then we should have expected, because there was also some good things last night that he did. I mean, I love when that offensive line breaks down, the play's not necessarily over. Last year, the last 5 years, it was.
Right.
And so that mobility, which they were looking for, that's one aspect of all of this. But I guess my question today is, do you honestly believe you're ready for this experience that so many of us have asked for? Because this is it. It's kind of like, we're going to have a baby. Oh, it's going to be so great because they're cute. And we're going to have, right? He is. Your mind, it's unbelievable. It's a beautiful thing to waste. But anyway, right? It's kind of like the feeling, I think, when people get pregnant. Oh my gosh, it's like having a little doll, and they're beautiful, and you think of all the good moments, and the first time they laugh, and the first time they walk, are you honestly ready to be up at 3:30 in the morning when they're crying and they won't go to bed? Because there's that too. And so that's going to be me for a lot of this. Like, Trey's got to be good. But I also, as a fan, I've got to be prepared to not lose it when he's not.
Do you know what I'm not prepared for, honestly?
Yes.
The confirmation bias that's going to happen throughout the entire season. Because there is a portion of this fan base and of just football fans in general that are like, this guy stinks.
Right.
And, okay, there's a portion of this fan base that's like, this guy is the next Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
I'm like, okay, like, fine. We don't know either way, but every good play, it's going to be like, see, told ya, correct pick. He's great. And every bad one, it's going to be, he's terrible. What's Brock Purdy up to?
Right.
And that's what I'm not.
What's Brock Purdy up to?
That's what I'm not ready for. I'm ready for the ups and downs. I know there's going to be, for every awesome play, there's going to be one like, ooh.
To a degree, this is kind of the way NFL fans, maybe sports fans across the board, but especially the NFL, this is what we've become. I think each year, and the 49er fan base, this is one of the reasons I love them so much, I think has done a great job of not losing this, but each year we lose more and more people who were just fans of a team. And what the NFL has sort of become is a week in and week out test to see if I can be right. That's what it is. And we do this in a bunch of forms. Am I right about this player? See, Trey over Jimmy. Am I right about who I started in my fantasy league? Am I right that I picked the under? Am I right that the 49ers are a playoff team or they're not a playoff team? It's just a repetitive, am I right or am I not right? As opposed to sit back, be a fan of the 49ers, This is where they are. And by the way, this is where they're going to be for at least 2 years at minimum. Okay. And that's why I ask, do you honestly feel like you're ready for this? Because how long did it take through last night before two names come up? One's Jimmy Garoppolo and the other one's Brock Purdy. Now, the Brock thing is like, let's just stick that over here because that's absurd. But this is why you got to get Jimmy out of this building now. Because as long as he's even sort of parenthetically here, this is what's going to happen every time Trey throws a bad pass. And that's what I meant. That's what I've been meaning all along when I say this isn't fair to Trey. It's not that he can't handle it.
Right.
It's not that it wouldn't necessarily be ideal to have that kind of a fallback position. But you just can't because as a society, we are not mentally strong enough to handle Trey, a few bad passes, a few bad games, while Jimmy sits there with a clipboard. We can't do it.
So the interesting thing about this is I think there's two separate things going on here that are converging improperly. I think it was the right decision. Let's take Trey Lance out of it. Moving on from Jimmy Garoppolo was the right thing to do, I think. It was risky. It's a gamble, but they'd hit their ceiling offensively with Jimmy Garoppolo. We know what Jimmy Garoppolo was. We know what their offense was going to be. And if things didn't go right, if their defense wasn't awesome, if their run game was getting stymied, they were just they didn't have a lot of answers.
Could you make the case, though, when people say that, they've hit their ceiling on offense, even if I agree, was the offense good enough?
No.
Like you don't feel like they could have won a Super Bowl? I mean, they were 7 minutes away.
Right, but that's the thing is they had a quarterback that just couldn't quite make the plays.
Right.
They had two chances against the Rams. The Rams tied it and then took the lead. The Niners got the ball back twice, and the quarterback went 1 for 6 for negative yards.
No, he's not perfect.
Right.
He's not perfect, but there have been plenty of imperfect quarterbacks who've won a Super Bowl. But go ahead.
But not to mention his unreliability. Like, part of the reason they didn't win this year is because he was hurt again.
Right.
So
although I noticed nobody brought it up that Trey Lance got hurt twice last year and nobody called him injury prone. Go ahead.
Right. In the preseason, broke his finger.
But go ahead.
No, so I'm of the belief, and if you disagree, fine. Like I can't argue that Jimmy Garoppolo went to a Super Bowl. He's a good quarterback. He should start somewhere this year. But I think moving on from him is the right thing to do if you wanted to level up and get into that Bills, Chiefs, Buccaneers conversation.
Agreed.
Okay.
And then there was the second part of why it was a smart move, which is, do you like Deebo Samuel? Do you like Nick Bosa? Do you like Fred Warner? And do you like George Kittle? Because if you do, if you keep Jimmy, it's, I think, kind of likely that one of them doesn't stay.
Yeah.
Like, the financial side of this has to consistently be remembered.
Totally.
As to the 49ers now have a run, for a period of time at least, with Trey Lance on the cheap.
A quarterback on a rookie contract is like the most valuable thing.
Gold.
A good quarterback on a rookie contract.
There you go. Yeah. That's true. All right.
So that brings me to the second thing, is the Trey Lance conversation shouldn't be Lance or Jimmy. Should they have kept Jimmy? It's like, did they make the right pick? They mortgaged their future to take a gamble and elevate the ceiling of their offense to get to that next level. Like, they were third. There were two quarterbacks on the board that they couldn't have. And they chose that year to move up and take this guy. Is that the right pick? We don't know right now. You cannot say definitively one way or the other.
Correct.
Right now. But that needs to be the conversation. It needs to be Trey Lance against, hey, what else was there? What else could they have gotten with those 3 picks instead of Lance?
We're going to go to the phones in just a second. I threw this out to Bucky Brooks on one of the Fox shows a week and a half ago. Yeah, go ahead. Hit me with the whoop. Yep, there you go. So I threw this out to him. He's actually doing stuff on the Jags broadcast this year, and we hear about Bucky from Bucky during the draft every year. This is kind of his jam. So I said, go back with those 5 quarterbacks and redraft. Redraft now, knowing what we know, which is not enough, but it's more than we knew then. What would you do? He goes, I'm still taking Trevor Lawrence number 1 overall.
I think that's right.
Okay. Then is where it gets interesting. So even if Trevor's still number 1, Zach Wilson, we don't know enough, hasn't looked great. I think the majority of football fans will go, yeah, but Jets. Like, whoever was going to end up with the Jets is getting a tough spot. And the other thought was, whoever Kyle takes is probably going to be really good. Not just, hey, that guy's good. It's because he's with Kyle. Bucky, to this day, says, I think the second best one was Justin Fields. That's who I would have taken. And he says that's still true today. And I don't know that he's wrong. He didn't look great, but he's with the Bears. Like Zach Wilson and Justin Fields ended up with the Jets and the Bears. Right. And so we're like, oh, they're the bad ones. But Mac Jones, he's kind of nice. Why do you think he's nice? Because he's on the Patriots. Like, organizational stability is a major, major piece of this. So to your point, and it's one of the reasons that makes week one so delicious, like, what would this have looked like if it were Justin Fields instead of Trey Lance, who did have big-time college football and more experience and maybe was a little bit more turnkey? They did their evaluation. I trust them, and so I have no reason to think right now that they were wrong. But we do too much comparing of Trey and Mac Jones, and maybe not someday enough of Trey Lance and Justin Fields.
By the way, Mac Jones, 4 of 8 for 61 yards in the preseason.
Yay. Like,
are they slamming the panic button in New England?
I mean,
he stinks.
We're going to sit here and do this to Trey because of all these rumors about Mac Jones. Does Mac Jones inspire anybody?
That's the thing.
He's in the AFC. Do you honestly ever think Mac Jones is going to win anything? His career is going to be up against Herbert, Allen, Burrow, Mahomes. I could go on.
Unless
he's never going to win anything.
Unless he's the next Tom Brady, which odds are
I'll
probably
bet
not.
Against.
Right. So that's the thing is, like, I'm when you talk about the Trey Lance pick, like, there's a process here that I actually like. I think NFL teams are way too often very conservative. And they just go, hey, let's go with Mac Jones because you know what? High floor, low ceiling, but hey, we're going to be in the playoffs.
Right.
That's why the Bengals and Andy Dalton and Marvin Lewis were just year after year first or second in their division, and they're losing to Houston in the wild card game 5 years in a row.
Right.
And you're just, that doesn't inspire anybody, and that doesn't inspire anything. So I love the process of going and getting Trey Lance.
I agree with you completely.
Low floor, high ceiling, we'll see. So I'm excited for that because maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't. I'm just glad they had the stones to make a move. Not a lot of teams would.
The 49ers looked at, and we've talked about this before, the 49ers looked at their B-level quarterback and said, no, we're going to try for an A. We might end up with a D.
Huge risk.
But we're going to try for an A. There are so many teams in the NFL that don't do this, and my apologies if this quarterback triggers you when I bring him up.
Oh, no.
But there are a bunch of names where you can say, yeah, this guy's good, and we can be relevant, and we can go to the playoffs maybe. We're not going to win. I mean, don't you Raider fans feel that way about Derek Carr? And here we go. I know you're going to get mad. Like, Derek's good. He's good. But he's not the other guys.
You don't know that yet.
He's not.
You don't know that yet.
I do. He's not Mahomes. He's not Allen. He's good. He's very okay. Cowboy fans, B, right? B plus. He's not. He's okay.
Kyler Murray's in
he's
that
nice.
group.
Kyler Murray a little early, and I know he's kind of got some physical freak stuff, but same. Kirk Cousins, guaranteed money, Minnesota. You can be fine. You're not going to win. You can be fine. Most teams are like, yeah, we'll take fine. I already said it. I hate fine. I don't want any more fine.
I know this isn't your point.
Yeah.
I don't think Dak's necessarily the problem in Dallas. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, agreed. And I don't think Derek is the problem with the Raiders either. Sure. I don't even know if there is a problem with the Raiders. I know Raider fans, it's August, so they're going to win it all. But anyway, right? I mean, come on. You can look around the league and teams do this. If you have a B, it is way safer to just give $40 million a year to your B than go try to get an A. I'm with you. I like that the 49ers did this. Let's hear from all of you. 888-957-9570. That's the number. Jason Cole in 10 minutes, longtime NFL writer, Hall of Fame voter, Bleacher Report fan cited. He's been everywhere. He last night said Davis Mills was better than Trey Lance. We'll have that conversation with him coming up in 10 minutes.
Fascinating.